Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, Governor Ricketts is never going to support reform. There is no evidence to think that that's ever going to happen. Governor Ricketts is more focused on owning the libs by issuing symbolic proclamations saying no to sanctuary for migrant children and yes to sanctuary for guns. He's focused on suppressing the free press by making up silly applications for credentialing for his press conferences while rounding all of you up to vote against bills like Senator Moorfeld's LB 88. And let me tell you, colleagues, telling young people in Nebraska that they don't deserve to have their voices heard is not a great way to keep young people in Nebraska. And Ricketts knows that. Governor Ricketts knows that. He doesn't care. The governor is not interested in changing the system or reforming the system or helping people in poverty or lifting up people of color or providing any substantive benefit to any of these people. He's on his way out, and he's looking for another platform to wage his culture war. And that's not what I'm a part of. Colleagues, the state literally engineers the conditions for poverty and homelessness and hunger and conflict and illness, and then we cite these things as the reason to fund increasingly militarized police forces instead of reducing poverty or hunger or homelessness or any of the things that our policies themselves have engineered. And by passing this budget with this funding for a new prison, we are complicit in that. And I know what I'm doing here. Me saying defund the police, which my office has been getting calls about nonstop all weekend, is like catnip to the far right. And just as I knew they would, they lost their minds when I said this. The state GOP called me a radical, but everybody knows I'm a radical for justice, so that's no problem. All the men on the talk radio shows wanted me to come on and defend myself, but I don't talk to shock jocks when I have this public platform to talk to the people. And people tell me, if you want to stay in power, you better not say that. But here's what people have to understand. I'm not here for power. I will literally never do anything to stay in power. I have gratitude that I'm even here in the first place. It's by the grace of your God that I even get to be here to push my button. And I will honor the gift by trying to do the right thing every day, even if it doesn't make me stay in power. And if the voters like that, thank you. And if they don't like that, democracy will do its thing and I'll be out of here. Because I have plenty more to do in life than be elected. And all of you should feel the same way. You should be radicals for justice. You should stand up for justice, not just for law and order. And I'm not going to be any different as long as I'm here with the tools that I have, with the circumstances that I have. And right now the circumstance is LB 383, which is appropriating nearly $130 million for the building and planning of a new prison, when all of the constituents that we have are telling us that that's exactly what we don't need to do. Look at the cost per student versus cost per inmate in this state. Compare the cost to educate with the cost to incarcerate. In this country, we educate, we medicate, and we incarcerate. Those are the three biggest businesses in our country. So a budget discussion needs to be a conversation around the priorities and values and morals that we have as a society and that we want to put forward, and also how we're measuring our return on investment. So I say we need to defund the police, and you can call it what you want. You can take that as your ears will hear it. But what I support is investing in communities and in solutions that we know work. If locking up everybody and killing people extrajudicially made us safe, we would be the safest country on the planet. But we're not, because those things don't make people safe. What makes people safe is housing, healthcare, education, good jobs, lifting people up. I want actual safety and not just the illusion of safety. And I realize that defund the police is a slogan that makes a lot of people go into their corners, but the reality is that everybody needs to look at the data, be driven by the goal for solutions and the reality on the ground, and recognize that there is racism in our policy system for many people. And defund the police resonates with those people. Furthermore, I believe that police unions are a huge roadblock to meaningful policy change and reform in criminal justice and in this area. We see this happen when the police union comes in to oppose bills.
Senator, but you're next in the queue. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We see this happen when the police union comes in to oppose bills that we have to increase transparency and accountability, when we ask for oversight boards, when we ask for body camera footage, when we want to end qualified immunity. The union fights to keep disciplinary records confidential. They fail to discipline cops who are violent, and they protect officers at the expense of the public good, which undermines trust and undermines public safety. And for that reason, I do not accept political contributions from the police union. I did receive their endorsement in my election. But I think that for us as elected officials to be effective in justice reform and in enacting real public safety for the people, we have to be off the political payroll of law enforcement. Black Nebraskans are overrepresented in Omaha Police and Douglas County Sheriff's Department traffic stops, search, and arrests. Black Nebraskans make up 5% of Nebraska, but almost a third of our prison population. 55% of the boys in Omaha's youth correctional facility are Black. Students of color are overrepresented in law enforcement referrals in Omaha area school districts. In Douglas County, Black Nebraskans are almost 2 times as likely to be arrested for marijuana possession, for cannabis, as white people. We have to acknowledge and dismantle racism and build up support for mental health and economic opportunity and the services that we know pull people up, that keep them from recidivating, that keep them from committing crimes, that are engineered by the policies that we pass here. That's a real proven crime plan that advocates safety for all. And colleagues, a prison is never going to do that. And there are very few elected officials at the state level who agree with me, who are willing to do that. Some people say that our budget is a moral document because it's a reflection of what we invest in for our priorities. Unfortunately, colleagues, our priority appears to be, after everything that happened last summer, after all of the listening sessions that we had, the priority appears to be continued systemic investments in police, in law enforcement, and in incarceration. More carceral solutions to economic problems, more carceral solutions to poverty. But what are we doing to decriminalize poverty and help these people out? This is a desolate and bleak statement in our budget. I think I will leave this motion up. I'll let us have a conversation about it. I see a few people in the queue. And we can have a vote on this. It'll fail, and you guys can get your prison money. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.